Thanks, Sophie. Hello, welcome to Midlands Today with me, Mary Rhodes. The headlines tonight: new road, old problem, clean up at Worcestershire's cricket ground to get play back after being flooded 8 times over the winter.
There is very much a wish to get the cricket back up and running and to get to get the ground restored.
With increasingly wet winters, we'll look at whether the prospect of the cricket club moving is now inevitable. Also on the programme, Keep Britain Tidy. 70 years after the campaign's launch, we meet the 6-year-old girl determined to stop people littering.
People need to look after the environment and put rubbish in the bin.
Join me as 2 West Midlands teams make their final preparations for the British Kabaddi League Grand Final here in Birmingham this weekend.
And what a picture, fields of dandelions and clover in warm sunshine. If only tomorrow was the same. I'll have more on that for you later.
Good evening. It's become an all too familiar picture, the flooded pitch at Worcestershire's cricket ground. The future of the club at New Road remains in doubt. Following a devastating few months, 8 floods costing £250,000 in lost revenue. It's staged championship cricket since 1899, but increasingly wet winters led to a search for a new home. But supporters are determined to keep cricket there. This morning, dozens gave a helping hand to clear away debris left behind by the most recent flood. Amy Cole reports.
Scenes that take your breath away. Worcestershire County Cricket Club submerged back in January. Its New Road ground has flooded 8 times over the winter, and as the club's chief executive tells me, the effect has been catastrophic.
You had the first proper flood back in October. What kind of financial impact has that had on the club?
Huge, yeah, for us. We're looking in the region of £200,000 to £250,000, which for a club our size is a lot of money, and that comes from, a loss of, and that comes from lost revenues of not having people here, but also the costs of having to pick everything up and move it to Kidderminster, which is where we played our first 2 home games.
Today, an army of volunteers has turned up to help clean the mucky seats following the repeated floods. Sue Holden's had a box here for over 10 years and is devoted to the club.
They just need some help because it's a massive task with the river team that comes in across here and floods. It's a mucky river, and obviously the 7 from the other side. So when they meet, it's a bit chaotic. I just think that the club needs a lot of tender loving care at the moment.
I think this winter has been probably as bad as we've had for the recurrence of floods. So yeah, it is at times soul destroying, but at the same time, I think there is very much a wish to get the cricket back up and running.
The club says it's going to carry out a full feasibility study to see how viable it is to continue playing here in the longer term. But for some members, the thought of moving is sacrilege.
Think of the cost of setting up something like this somewhere else. Leave it as it is. Put up with the floods. Put up with people coming down here as volunteers to clear up after them, as people have done for several years in my lifetime. And indeed, we've survived floods for 105 years, I think it is.
An argument for another day, perhaps. Right now, the ground, much of which has been reseeded, is being prepared for the first match since September to take place this Sunday. Amy Cole, BBC Midlands Today, Worcester.
So, how have things changed for New Road and Worcestershire Cricket Club over the past few years? Our science correspondent David Gregory-Kumar has been delving into the data.
This is a bird's eye view of Worcester itself, and it's pretty easy to pick out the cricket ground. It's right up here at the top of the picture, and obviously it's next to the River Severn, which is the cause of all this trouble. And if you follow the River Severn down, not that far, you come to Diglis. And here there's a river level monitoring station, so we can dive into the historical data from that station and get a pretty good idea of how often the Severn has been flooding New Road. So this is the last 10 years of data. There's lots going on, Let me take you through it. The blue line is just the height of the River Severn itself. As you might expect, it goes up in the winter and then drops down again in summer. Typically, the river level is around 2.8 metres. That's this green line here. This red line, though, that's the warning level. Above here, you get flooding, and you'll need a small boat to get out to the wicket. So what's been the trend over the last decade? Well, let's have a look. We can see there were floods in 2014, that's here, and then again in 2016, when the blue line just goes above the red. And then nothing till, well, 2020, and then you get flooding every single year after that. The trend then is definitely for more flooding, but that's not all. Because if we zoom into the last 3 years of data, and you see we don't just have more floods, we have floods that are lasting longer. These peaks are wider, the water's sitting on the pitch for longer. So to sum up, the floods are more common and they're doing more damage and taking longer to recover from. In the end, as the climate changes, there comes a limit to what we can do to protect ourselves by building barriers and defences. And New Road is already at that point. It's too big and too close to the river to really construct anything to hold back the Severn when it floods. In the end, moving may well be the only choice available to them. And they won't be alone. Others will follow their example as we continue to deal with the impact of climate change.
And that was Gregory-Kumar. To some of the day's other news, a lorry driver from Stourbridge has been jailed for 42 weeks following a collision on a motorway which killed a horse. 47-year-old Nicholas Cole failed to move out of the inside lane of the M1 in Northamptonshire in July last year, which had been closed due to a broken-down horse box. His lorry clipped a van, overturned and crashed into the stationary vehicle, killing the animal inside. A factory in Coventry has been fined £50,000 after an electrician fell 35 feet to the floor from a platform. The 52-year-old was knocked off by a crane at Expert Tooling and Automation in September 2022. He was treated in hospital for a fractured skull. The company admitted breaching health and safety regulations. The trust, which runs Shropshire's two main hospitals, has been told it requires improvement. An inspection last year reported progress across a number of key areas and services at the Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital Trust, which was previously rated inadequate. Maternity services improved their overall rating to good. It comes 2 years after a damning report into maternity failings. The trust says it now offers prospective mothers a better service.
This is about you're not another woman going to have a baby in our hospital. This is about you and about your experience. What is it? And we will tailor the care that we provide to you. And we should be, as much as possible, making it